Hey there, welcome to Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. This space is for the woman who's done pretending, done hiding, and ready to step fully into her truth. Midlife isn't about fading into the background. It's a time where resilience lights the way and authenticity becomes the loudest voice in the room. In this season of our lives, we are more than just survivors. We are creators, revolutionaries, and unapologetic women rewriting the rules. I've been through my battles, rebuilding from loss, betrayal, and heartache. But here's the truth. Every challenge, every tear, and every setback has led me to this moment of profound transformation. Together, we're going to dive into raw, real conversations that shatter stereotypes, tackle the tough stuff, and embrace the powerful magic that is midlife. So, if you're ready to live this chapter with boldness and joy, hit subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it and leave a review so we can keep this revolution going. Ladies, no more masks, no more apologies, just the truth of who we are. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era podcast. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. And first and foremost, thank you to everyone who engages in this podcast, who listens, who shares, who gives us love. I appreciate more than I can ever say, because today we have such a treat. You know, creativity is not often related to entrepreneurship, and which is really weird because you have to be creative to be an entrepreneur, but it seems so serious all the time, right? And especially for women. But today I have a treat because my friend Pia is the show way maker of creativeness, entrepreneurship, and midlife journey through this idea that entrepreneurs are more creative than they're not. So let me introduce my friend Pia. Hello there and welcome to the show.
Hi, wonderful. It's so great to be here. I was going to say wonderful to be here, but I'm sure I'm sure you get that a lot.
Oh my gosh. And you know, I'm so used to it. So it's like, absolutely. It doesn't even jar me anymore of like, wait, you just said my name. But thank you for being here because, you know, when we first had a conversation and you were sharing your sort of nomadic upbringing, which is like, what? So first of all, let me just take a breath because there's so many questions I want to ask you. But let's start with your origin story. Like, how is Pia today, and how did you get here?
Okay. I just had the rewind sound in my head. Like, so who am I? Well, I call myself a recovering nomad because even though I grew up on the Lower East Side, Manhattan and Brooklyn, I have lived in many different countries, moved around every 2 years, sometimes every year as a kid, and then continued that pattern as an adult because it was what I knew. Moving from Puerto Rico, Manhattan, Montreal, Ottawa, list goes on. My mother was a free spirit, creative in her own right, single mom. My parents were separated when I was really little, and she just loved do-overs. So she was like, okay, what's the next adventure? So I wasn't an army brat, but I did follow her lead in that way. I had no choice as a kid, moving around a lot. In terms of what brought me here today, man, there's so many stories, but ultimately, I believe we live many lives in this one lifetime. So all of the past versions of myself and all her beautiful colors, her bruises, and her beauty marks and everything that came with it brought me to where I am today. And it was really interesting because writing my book was a way of integrating, the different selves. Because as someone who's a recovering nomad, it taught me how to shapeshift. And that could be both a blessing and a curse because you know how to adapt to different cultures, different environments, different energies. You know how to read a room. You usually know what version or what shape is required of you in order not only to survive, but to thrive. and it becomes sort of like, I guess, a superpower of sorts. But there's a flip side to all things. And the flip side is sometimes distancing myself from my original shape. And if you keep shape shifting, how do you remember your original form? And learning also how to feel comfortable in the skin I'm in, even if it makes other people uncomfortable, even if it doesn't adapt to scenes and environments and people. And so I think that's just been it was an important homecoming to call all my past versions of myself home in the book, parts that I might have kept in the dark because I wasn't always proud of some of the decisions that I made. But in writing the book, it was like welcoming all those versions home because they all made me who I am today. And so loving them and having compassion and saying, yeah, you did your best with the consciousness level you had at that point in time. And that was part of like reclaiming my original form because
Wow.
those all those all play a part in that form and the form that I am today.
Wow. I mean, that was just beautifully story told because I could see the lines of where it went. And it mimics so much of all of us midlife women out there, right? We have a river journey, right? A river is never just a straight path. It's very curvy, and then sometimes you can't see there's giant rocks underneath or how shallow or how deep it is. And you know, this book that you wrote, was this the beginning of your unraveling of sort of these many lives that you're talking about to get to your truth? Or did you get to your truth first and then you're like, okay, I want to have like a timeline of this truth finding? Which way did it go first or truth after?
Well, it was story first
Mm,
because the versions that I served were in service of the story and the reader. That was what my editor helped guide me through. It's like, okay, what what personal memoir moment in your life, supports this? And that was really, really
mm.
important with me. I want to lead with memoir for the reason that I have a little inner rebel inside me. I don't like when people tell me how to do things. I like when they show me how they did it. And I really wanted to be at eye level with people. Like I'm not a guru or an expert. I am just, one woman who lived a full fat, full flavor, terrifying and thrilling life, And so it felt important to have skin in the game and to say, okay, well, here are stories of how I've lost and found my creative power as an invitation for you to step into yours. Because that's
Mm,
your creativity is innate. It's always been yours. So it's a
right.
reclamation. So it's an invitation to reclaim creativity, right? And it was
Mm,
also unbeknownst to me in some ways, it was a reclamation of many parts of myself, all the creative permutations. And so kind of without me realizing it, it was very healing. It was integrative. It was
yeah.
many things. But it really was more about intention first. Like my intention is to invite people to reclaim what's always been there. So I need to also be part of that reclamation, you know?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. And you know what? In our first conversation, you used this term, probably dyslexiing it out. It's either adventure rebellious or rebellious adventurer, right? It's one of the, and I really, that stuck to me because I thought, wow, that fed my spirit too. I'm a rebellious adventurer, just not in the same way because you'd shared some stories. Tell us a story of give us a few adventures that kind of line in together, that flow in together and then brought you to writing about it. Because here's the thing, I get so many women on this show and they're like, I don't know if my story's interesting. I don't know if it means anything, right? If there's purpose in it. And I don't believe that. I think every story gets us to our truth. And that truth is really what you're saying is reclaiming that version of us. And especially when we hit that midlife space, because it's just opening up, right? We're aligning with ourselves and the universe, and just all of the magnetic force out there in the world realigns us at a particular age. And we're either going to follow through with that or kind of be like, no, I'm still in the hustle. I'm still in the game. So where were you in that whole nomadic journey? Because you said you continued this into your adulthood.
Yeah.
So then what happened there?
I just want to say one of the beautiful things about getting older, sometimes it's like gray hair and you're like, oh, and other
Yeah.
things you're like, oh, joint pain, perimenopause. But one of the beautiful parts of getting older is there's like this settling into your bones. Who you are. Excuse my language, but there are less fucks in the bank. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just spent. It's done. We've spent them all. It's good. It's like, I'm ready. I'm ready to come home. I'm home. So I think that's one of the joys of midlife, really. So I just wanted to throw that in there as you.
Yes.
That's what came up for me as I was listening to you speak. So where was I? What led me to sort of write the book? Wonderful. That's a journey. Okay. I'm trying to think about how far I go back because I think life, there's a beautiful quote and I can't recall who it's from. We can put it in the notes, but it's like, everyone wants transformation, but no one wants to change.
Yes.
Right? And I think in life, often it's transformation is a series of subtle shifts that sometimes are barely noticed or felt. But if we're in alignment and we're moving in that alignment, as you said, they're happening. And then one day, boom, it feels like everything's changed. Right. Information. So for me, I had a series of subtle shifts that led me to write the book. And so it's like, where do I begin? All right. I guess I'll begin at my divorce, which was maybe at least a decade ago. Okay, but so it was a while ago. And when I got divorced, I had lived in Copenhagen for a few years. I lived in London before that for almost 4 years. And then before London, I was in France. And then before that, I was in Bahrain. So I had been, a few years. And I had been at like 4 years in Copenhagen at the time. And I remember I was like, all right, time to go to Paris. My heart was aching. I felt lost. And that's usually what we did, meaning we, my mother, or then just me alone. It was the default mode. It was like, okay, time to go, time to change it up because that movement felt safe. It also meant I didn't have to sit with my pain. So I went to, luckily before Paris, my divorce put me in touch with someone put me in touch with a great therapist because at some point you're like, for me, I was like, all right, I gotta look at a few things here. And so I walked into her office. Best thing that came out of my divorce, I can tell you, was meeting my therapist. I still see her. She's amazing. I walked into her office. I said, I think it's time for Paris, And she just looked at me, said, yeah, you could move and you can keep moving every year, every 2 years, every 3 years for the rest of your life. Not judging. That's a choice. Or you could learn how to stay and develop a deeper relationship with yourself, with a place, with other people. Maybe that's the untried. Wonderful. I was just.
Yeah.
And the gift that she gave me was the reminder that I had a choice. Because when we're in the default mode, automatic pilot, knee jerk response, it's like the past repeating itself. And we can forget that we have a choice and that we have agency. And so when I was confronted with that choice, I was like, yeah, I never experienced that in my life. Maybe it's time. And so I've been in Denmark. That was over a decade ago. So I've been here for 15 years. So, I mean, I can say that I've learned how to stay. Woohoo! I did it. And now if I want to move or if I want to experience a new culture, I know it's not because I'm running to or from something.
Yeah. I love that you bring that up because I think we all have a tell, right? We all have a thing that we do that may not be synonymous to anyone else or be understood by anybody else, but it's our coping mechanism. And some are subtle, some are big. Like what you're saying is moving or haircuts, changing whole wardrobes, repainting the whole house by yourself kind of thing. There's all kinds of, or having more children or having more boyfriends, whatever it is, we all have a tell in that way. And what a powerful move to be guided by someone else. Right? Like, because that's, I think, another piece.
Absolutely. And you know what all those tells have in common that you just described when I listened to them? Busyness.
Yes. Distraction and busyness.
Distraction. It's like, okay, let me look away. And I think that's something that as a society, at least in the Western world, it's also something that's rewarded. Like, oh, you're busy. Oh, great. Look, you're productive. Fantastic. So it almost feels like a healthy thing to do.
And I think especially too in the arena of what you experience, because that's like the secret thing everybody wants to do is to run away to a exotic new place, right? It could be Ohio and it's still an exotic new place because it's new, it's fresh, it's starting over again kind of thing. So then you You decide to stay. Congratulations, 15 years in, right? Whole decades in. What happened? Because I feel like that strand doesn't actually really just disappear, right? Because
No.
then it goes into this microcosm world. How did it show up while you were developing this idea of staying?
Well, I was afraid to be alone after being married. And I kind of lost touch with my own power, my creative power,
Mhm.
myself in many ways. And instead of taking the time to be by myself, which is really what I needed to do, I jumped into an unhealthy rebound relationship because I felt like I was drowning at sea and like he was the life buoy, the light that I
Mhm.
could hold on to. And he was also in the process of getting a divorce. So here we go. We're just um, and that led to, a few years. It's like when you're learning how to stay, how do you know when to leave?
What?
Why? What's going on? So that was really hard, right? And at least I had my therapist. So a lot of the triggers, like I do feel that I can, looking back, I can be grateful because a lot of the triggers were also opportunities to look at parts of me that needed healing. And luckily I had a
Mhm.
partner to go through that with. But I also at that time found a job working as one of three partners, building a creative studio and also working as a creative director and the partner. So I threw
Of
everything I had at that
course.
job, right? Of course, busy. Like, let's just head first, boom, blood, sweat, and tears, the whole thing. And I did that for almost 3 years, slack at night, feeling so
Mm.
important. That's what I meant about the positive reinforcement of like, oh, look, I'm building something. Look, I'm doing something. This matters.
Yes.
This is something that I feel I can control, right? If I put all my
Right.
energy into it, something good will happen. I'll make something. And again, it's a lot of avoidance, but I can be compassionate for myself. I was going through it. It
Yeah.
was a rough time. It was a really rough road. And so when I got fired from that job, it was like the universe pressed the brakes on my speeding Ferrari and said, enough, enough. And I went through the windshield and I remember like being on the floor and looking at the shards that were my life and nothing felt right.
Mhm.
Nothing. And in that moment, it was my intuition, but I don't know if I would have called it that at the time, a very strong pull to make a different choice. There was something in me that was like, do that bucket list desire, go on the Trans-Siberian by yourself, take a beat. Because I could have kept in the fear loop of like, oh, I'm on a work visa, I need to find a job, and oh, this relationship's not working out, and oh, I have to, no, go to China, Mongolia, and Russia on a train. Figure it
Yeah.
out.
But I feel like the key word is go by yourself, which is the biggest
Yes.
whisper to all of us,
Yes.
right? I think we all come to a point where there's that tiny, tiny little everything else is big, is go, run fast and find the biggest cave you can hide in. And then there's this little tiny thing in the back going, go
Yeah.
by yourself. And that I think, well, and then again, somebody hearing this is like, God, how brave, like the courage to get on this train, the Trans-Siberian train. But really, I think we have to like rewind and hear that piece again that said, because I'm guessing the scariest part for you was the go alone part.
Mm, I think it felt scarier not to do it.
Ooh, tell us about that. Tell us a little bit
Well,
about that. Because you've been nomadic. So why did that feel scary?
Well, the worst thing that was not to take the train. That's what I meant, like the fear, right? The worst thing has to have already happened. I had to face the
Mm,
worst things. I had to face the loss of
mm.
my
I
identity in
see what you're
many
saying.
ways in
Yeah.
work. I had to face living in the anxiety of, turning the key before I open the door to my home and thinking,
Mm,
where are we
yeah.
going to, there's so much that didn't feel right. I had a lot of courage. I didn't, the scary choice was not doing it.
Yeah, like the staying thing that
Staying
you
thing.
had
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
got
And so this was gonna be almost 5 weeks, and I was like, "Let's do it. No, like, this is needed." It was a very strong voice and felt sense of, like, this is what needs to happen. So I did it, and it was such a pivotal life, like, it's like when a train changes tracks, do you know? Like, it was one of
like you
those.
feel the shift.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
feel a shift, and it was one of those definite pivotal moments where it put me on a different track, on the right track for me.
Mm,
So here's what it reminded me of. It reminded me that, of course, I'm gonna be okay on my own.
mhm.
Also, I grew up in New York City in, like, the 80s. Yeah, I got some street smarts, so I can like deal with situations. I'm good, and I've been on my own since I was 17. So somehow I had forgotten my creative
Mm.
power. I had forgotten myself in many ways. Like, of course I can. Remember the rebellious teenager who made it on her own at 17? Like, what? Call her in, And it
Oh,
reminded me
yeah.
also that the world is big and beautiful. Oh my God, there's
Mhm.
so many adventures and opportunities available to us if we just be present and open and courageous and go for it. Like I can't even, this is another podcast episode of all the experiences that I had traveling through different Moscow, St. Petersburg, the Gobi
Mm.
Desert, Beijing, like so much. And then the third one, which was a huge realization that also led to my book, which happened years later, right? Was I remember sitting in the steel train car, right? Looking at the Siberian landscape, hurtling onto the outside the window, smelling sauerkraut and body odor, staring at a Russian guy wearing a wife beater and hugging a bottle of vodka while he punched the steel wall with his other hand. Okay. And taking it, like sitting back and like really observing the whole scene and myself, like, where am I? I'm in Siberia. What the hell? And saying, hey, wait a minute. I creatively directed this scene. All right. I brought myself here. Set design, check. Main character energy, check. Script, scene, score, scent, all of it. Whoa. I'm not only a creative director at work, I'm creatively directing my life.
Oh, goosebumps.
One of those moments, and it also helped redefine my very definition of creativity. Creativity
Mhm.
is not just something that we do, it's a way of being. So that
Wow.
things changed after that.
And I think that moment of allowing it to permeate, integrate,
Mm.
be a part of you, because it would have been just so easy, like, and just like, no, I need to stay focused. I'm on this steel contraption with a human that kind of looks sketch, right? Like, we don't know, is this a dark alley we're walking into? But to see it from this beautiful space that you just described, that I think is the shift that is always in front of us that we might not take advantage of, to say, like, who am I in this experience and who do I want to be? Because we're always searching. I get so many women that talks about that, right? They spent the 90s looking for their purpose. And then they spent the 2000s going, I thought this was my purpose, right? But it was somebody else's purpose. And then, there was a billion books written, especially during that time frame of find your purpose. Here's your purpose. Let's dream your purpose. Let's design your purpose. But you're saying it in the most beautiful human way of there's the purpose you didn't just have right there when you saw it for what it was and how you were creating this life. That was it. That was the purpose. So then what did that motivate in you or inspire in you from that experience of realizing that you are the director of your own life?
Well, I got home, broke up with the partner, sold our apartment, found a little small apartment that was my own to move into.
Mhm.
I did end up finding another role. I found a role as a creative consultant slash director at a purpose-driven creative consultancy, working with
Mhm.
creativity to drive positive change in the world, that was run by two women. First time ever in my sort of creative career. And I remember also going in and saying, I would like to not work full time. I would like to not manage people. I don't want to be on the management team. I just want to focus on the work. And that was a way of me creating boundaries for myself, knowing that I can slip into work, and it was reciprocated and understood. And like, yeah, sure, let's do that.
Mhm.
And it also led me more into a facilitation role, because if we're looking to drive positive change, it often happens with leaders, and it happens in very different ways than just coming up with the best creative idea or
Mhm.
the creative strategy, that too. But it was a big mix, and that introduced me to the world of coaching. So opened up a new doorway in the art of
Mhm.
transformation, which is very similar in that sense to creativity, but
Mhm.
it's done in a very different way. And so it felt like the world was opening and I was rediscovering myself. I had a year of celibacy. It's like,
Ooh.
I'm gonna be by myself, like all by myself, like just spending time. I did a 10-day Vipassana silent retreat, which was also life-changing. I just experimented and did a lot of things and made decisions about how to come back to myself, how to reconnect with myself.
Wow. Well, you said a little while ago that you discovered this thing called choice, but then you kept practicing it. I think to
Yeah.
see that piece is so important for us to recognize that when we're aware of it, right? Everybody says it's in the thought leadership world, awareness is the key to all things. But then integration to it is practicing it. You got to practice the thing. And so when you're making these choices, were you feeling, so let's go back to that thing that you said earlier about intuition. Was this new direction more led through your intuition now that you've gathered more that, look at me being me, right? Now
Definitely.
running at 100%. When did you realize that, oh my gosh, intuition's been there all along?
I think that took me a while. And I've been meditating. I started my meditation journey around the same time as that trip or after that trip. So, and that
Mm,
I believe played a role in grounding and connection in many different ways, and also getting quiet enough to hear the voice within
yeah.
and to be able to distinguish between the voices because we all have a cacophony going on sometimes inside of us. We can have that inner judge and inner saboteurs, but we can also have that inner wise one, that inner Yoda. And so learning
Right.
how to discern between the voices and to tap in and to know what the felt sense of that is like. It took practice and time and quiet, just like sitting with me. Journaling is another thing that helped me meet myself daily. Always has. Julia Cameron, Artist Way, shout to morning pages. For years, it was just a way of reconnecting, meeting myself. And I think sometimes in the busyness of life, it's easy to disconnect from oneself. It's like, how am I feeling? How am I doing? What do I need right now? What's coming up for me? Like all of the things, just getting really
All the
curious about
things.
all the things. And intuition was a part of that. But I really felt it. I've been feeling it more. It's like the more I listen, just like to your point, it's a practice. Like if we have something
Mhm.
that a new belief we're looking to reinforce, we need behavior that creates evidence that we actually believe that.
Yeah. And that right, because I think the other thing that just happens so naturally for us in this midlife space, right? Because when you look at the common thread between the women 40 and over is we were raised in an environment that was very nomadic, even when it was like we were coming back to the same address over and over again because we were on our own pretty early on. So decision making was based on just survival, not really from thriving. And that's not a bad or a good thing. I'm not mentioning it from that space, but I'm saying this, it's our natural, so much of the language today is like, "Oh, did you have the courage to or the brave to?" I think our generation, that's what we were filled with at the highest level is a bunch of right courage and bravery because we were consistently on adventures. But at the same time, I feel like we forget that we can choose into those because it just becomes a part of our natural being. Like you were saying earlier, it was the fear of not going versus going. So when I think of all of that and sort of this through line that you're creating, now you've been in the same place for over a decade. You were so nomadic for so long. How do you feed that now? Like, how do you feed that part of you that wants adventure, that is seeking that level of creativity?
Can I reroute just for a second? Because you
Yeah.
just said something that was so interesting about courage. I just wanted to touch on that. Courage is interesting for me because I used to do courageous things. Because when I was a kid, I was often in situations that were beyond my pay grade, like
Mm,
situations that were too advanced for my years, if you know what I mean, having to manage.
mhm.
So whether it was, I came from a very loving home, but it was very chaotic. So whether it had to do with alcohol, my mom drinking or something and needing to manage situations that were
Mhm.
above me, I learned how to step in and do things that might appear very courageous
Mhm.
because I had to, but there was a trembling person. There was like
Mm.
this kind of
Yeah.
feeling, right? And so what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that it took me to kind of redefine courage because I look back, there are many things that you might look on from, outside
Yes.
and go, oh, is she so courageous? but oftentimes I was still trembling, and it was just, I just
That's
knew that I
so
walk
good.
into the fire. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I do. I walk into the fire and then I create, and I also know how to replicate chaos because it's what I knew,
Which
which
can
might look like
also mimic
courage.
courage.
Right.
Yes,
So what I'm saying is
yes.
it's interesting about courage, like things on the outside, maybe people look very courageous, but for me, I had to say, okay, well, actually, I need to heal that trepidation
Mhm.
within and choose to come from a different place when I make quote unquote courageous decisions.
Yes. I thank you for going back to that because I think that's another misconception with midlife women, right? I don't know. It's probably the same for men, but I'm not a man, so I don't know. I'm just speaking for my people. And I think so much is being set out there like, oh, the Gen X, they just know what to do. And but I think you're right. So much of us have these little trigger traumas because it may have looked courageous from the outside, but we were terrified on the inside because 90% of what we were doing was outside of our scope of understanding, scope of,
Yep.
comforting ourselves or even having reasoning behind it that made any sense. But to survive, we did it. We made it through. And I love what you're saying about redefining that because that's what I love about we were talking about your book. Because yes, there's a lot of adventures and yes, there's the journey. But I think the overall message is redefining the word courage for the majority of us who know that courage may what it looks like, but what it really feels like.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
That's,
yeah.
I love that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks for echoing that because I think it is really important because it's also what it feels like within. And it's learning to identify different types of fear. Because sometimes when you're about to do something courageous, it's scary. Like that's just that. It feels scary, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes that fear is more like a, oh, it kind of like more on the excitement side of things, even
Hmm.
though it's frightening. And then sometimes the fear is trying to tell you something like, hey, that's a dark alley, don't
Yeah.
go down it, right? So being able to discern like when fear, what kind of fear it is it a fear that is trying to like keep you safe? Is it a fear that's trying to save your life or is it just trying to keep you safe? There's not a bear charging at you. It's something actually that's going to help your growth, right? Or it's a dark alley. And so that felt important along my journey to be able to sort of learn to feel the fear and then distinguish like, is it for my survival or is it just trying to keep me small and safe? Because one
Yeah.
thing that I've learned in my experience, also through coaching and in my own life, is when we're on the precipice of a big, juicy, meaty change, fear gets really loud. Hey, 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 come back to the couch. We have a Netflix show we want to watch. I got some Cheetos for you. Like, come back, come back, come back. And that's all right. It's just trying to keep me safe. But I
Yeah.
need to recognize like, okay, it's you. No, we're not watching that show. We're going to take that jump because that's in the direction of something I really want to do or create or make in this world. That good
Ooh,
stuff.
I want to ask you about that because writing a book, like every chapter could be that. So
Mhm.
how did you get through? I had a meeting once with this publisher who was also an author, and he said this story. He goes, I just locked myself in a room for an hour. It took me 6 hours to finish a book. And I was just like, ooh, I don't think we're going to be a good match because that seems so not my jam. Like, I'm not locking myself in the room. First of all, that kind of triggers some things. And then
Yeah,
secondly, I can't imagine anything to organize my mind and to put it on paper and having to come up with a book in 6 hours feels daunting. Like it feels more pressure than it is. So
definitely.
what does it feel like for you in terms of this courage and, feel the fear and discern as you're writing this book? Because so many women want to tell their story, but what we won't admit to is how scary it is to be that vulnerable. Because writing is a very vulnerable experience.
Absolutely. Well, like most things, courage is a practice, courage is a muscle. You got to work it out. You start with 5 pounds, then you go 10, and you keep working it
Yeah.
out. So when I'm going to rewind a little bit to answer your question. So after a few years in this purpose-driven creative consultancy, I had like a knocking on my door at night, something, again, my intuition was like whispering in my ear, like, hey, what might happen if you channeled your creativity into building your own damn dream, your own business, your own
Ooh.
brand? knock, knock, knock. And I'm like, hey, I don't even know what that would be. Where would I begin? Where would I get clients? Like, no, because I was afraid. She kept coming up, kept coming up. Then in 2021, my mom passed away suddenly. She was in good health. It came from left field. And I walked her home, and witnessing her passing, gave me such a shot of courage, because that was one of her passing gifts, was courage. Because what am I so afraid of losing when I'm going to lose it all one day? I saw it that. I saw like, this is,
Wow.
it's not abstract concept. This is what
It's
it is.
in real time.
This is in real. This is how this happens. Sometimes for me, at least, it's like, oh yeah, I don't have other people with death. I don't know. But this is a thing. This is going to happen. And you know what? You got to hit an expiration date. You don't know when it's going to happen. But one day, everything that I've ever known is going to be gone. So what the hell am I so afraid of losing if one day I'm going to lose everything? What the hell is going on with me? This is ridiculous. Like, it felt very surreal, like, what? I'm afraid of leaving my job. Like, what, I had a nest egg, so it wasn't, but still, like, what? So after I came home a month later, I quit my job and I launched Collective Studio, and I didn't know what it was going to be. Yeah, I didn't know. Is it coaching? Is it creativity in a different way? I don't know. I don't want to work in the same way with creativity. I want to be a bit different. I don't know what it's going to be. Let's find out. And just to say, I felt a lot of fear. I had a lot of anxiety for the first year. It was like up and down, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
What's pipeline? Oh God, what is it going to be? Oh, when will the dots connect? Like, and it was quite loud, but I rolled with it. And it was the rolling with it and staying with it. And when anxiety kind of was spiraling and got a hold of me, there was another voice, and maybe my intuition again, that would say, hey, where are you? I'm here. Huh. What's here like? Here's pretty good, actually. Okay, stay here. That's what anxiety is. It's future fiction casting about what could happen, what might, blah, 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 like. And so it was like a practice of coming back to here again and again. And then eventually it was actually quite interesting. Maybe a year and a half, I don't know, whatever the timing was. Later, suddenly I felt lighter. Like, I noticed it one day, like the anxiety, I don't feel it as much. Like, it would come and go, but really passing, not in the same throat grip it had in the beginning. And it was because I created evidence that, of course, I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to die. I can handle this. Like, I will one day, but not in this situation. It's okay. So I taught myself that I can trust myself, and I can trust life, and I'll be all right. And that's a practice. And that gave me courage to take the next risk. And I didn't need death or divorce or getting thrown through windshields and all that stuff to do the thing. It was, I got a call from a hybrid publisher who said, have you ever thought of writing a book? I'm like, yeah, but I have no idea what I'd write about. Where would I even begin? And he's like, don't worry about that.
Most of us' response. Yeah.
Right? And he's like, don't worry about that. Let's get on a call. That's what we're here to work with you with. And he was a good salesman, but also a great founder. Interesting man. Very, very interesting guy. So we had a great call, and he said, look, you have a decision to make. I just want to give you a little stat. I don't remember. It was like 96% of people that choose not to write the book now never write the book. Because if not now, when? Right? I mean,
yes.
What's going to change in the future? Nothing, in the sense that the same fear, the same trepidation will be present. Yeah. It's not going to suddenly.
Back to what you just said a little bit ago. I mean, you're going to lose it all anyways, right?
Exactly. And if not now, when? Right? So that only took me 24 hours. I did because it's a big investment, a lot of time, vulnerability, all of it. And I thought, oh, no, we're doing this, honey. And I said, yes. And I think the reason I'm bringing that into the courage conversation is that first leap often is the scariest, but you're building your calf muscles of courage. You know what I mean? You're strengthening. So the next leap, it's still going to ache a little bit, but it's not going to be nothing like that first time. And it feels so freeing. Because what is this big, beautiful life for? If it's not to take risks for things that have deep meaning for you, and to create a life you want to create. What are we doing here if not that?
I mean, that right there, let's pause and ponder that, because really that's a question of the ages, right? Is what are we doing if we're not doing that? I mean, I think it was a total setup. The setup of our midlife collective. It was a complete setup because if we were already entrusted with courage from the moment we came out the womb, right? That's sort of our responsibility to show the next generation what courage looks like, not what it's defined by in theory, right? But what it looks like in action and in all the things. One of the books, you've probably heard of it, that just made the biggest wave in the world was Eat, Pray, Love, because we couldn't conceive, like, this woman decides to leave the perceived plan of a woman, marriage, the house, the whole thing, to adventure, not just one place, multiple places. And I think it wasn't so much that it was the cool places she went that was so relatable. It's what you're saying right now is it's our responsibility to leave that history to generations that will never meet and show them how we redefine courage individually and how it came about collectively. And I think that's
Beautiful.
what you're saying is that,
Absolutely.
and I feel it. I can feel that desire. I almost feel like you're telling me, like, I don't feel like I'm on a podcast. I feel like you're saying to me, wonderful, that book that you've been talking about for 3 years.
Yep.
It's time. If not now, when?
Yep, absolutely. And someone out there needs exactly what you have to share and say. Your story is someone's medicine. Who are you to hold on to that in your cabinet?
Right.
And not give that around to someone who's waiting and in need of it.
Yeah. Gatekeeping is
Also
no
that.
longer a thing.
You know?
Yeah. Yes. And I agree with you. I am feeling very inspired right now. I'm feeling a boost and a shot of courage to, I wrote down a few things here when you said feel the fear, and usually the next line that comes with that, do it anyways. But what I wrote was feel the fear and have discernment. Because that's, I think, what's braver than feel the fear and do it anyways. Like, we've done that most of our lives. We're not short of spontaneously combusting into courage. It's the discernment piece that we're really trying to ground into. So with that being said, as we're getting closer to the end of this conversation, if you're walking down the street in your beautiful city and you walk into a cafe and you see 25-year-old, what would you say to her that she would actually listen to?
Thank you. I love you. Keep going. It gets better from here, honey.
Wow. Well, 25-year-old Pia, just like me, filled with inspiration and courage from those words. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, she brought me here, so she needed to go through what she went through. She was brave for me to bring me to this point. So I also have to be brave for her and for my future self.
Yes. That is the message of the day is it's our responsibility to carry that courage through, not to find any way to talk trash it or to bury it or to, throw it in the bonfire. I think it was meant for us. It was meant for us to wield the power of who we are and then give it away, right? I don't want to get off this conversation.
No, it's been so good.
I am feeling just so connected to, I want to know more. Tell us, okay, one more question. And then I think I do have to let you go because you're on the other side of the world and you should get some sleep soon. Top 3 nuggets for let's say a 30-year-old is listening to this and is like, okay, I'm in. Where's this Trans-Siberian ticket? Where can I get this? What would be your top 3 nuggets of advice? And also, not just for her, but the 60-year-old woman who's now kind of in a new space, right? What's your nuggets for these 2 very distinct, different stage of women?
I have a question for you or for them, for listeners, either 30, 20, 50, 40, 70, the big message in my book is become the creative director of your life and to recognize your innate creativity. If you're human, you're a natural born creative. There's no question. That's your birthright. So as the creative director of your life, how would you creatively direct the next scene? What would it look like? And I'll give an example because sometimes it's like, oh my God, it feels really big. Like, what is it going to be? Like for me, that could look like putting on like the skirt that I have that looks like a tutu and my old Guns N' Roses t-shirt, putting on bright red lipstick, getting my cherry kombucha out and pouring it on ice, putting doshi on the speaker in my kitchen and dancing. Like that's a scene, right? That's the
Yep.
score. That's like the costume design. That's location setting. Like that's a mood. It's a vibe. It's a moment. And it might sound micro. It might sound like a small scene, but there's so much power in it because it's assuming your role already. It's like you're embodying it. You are sitting in that creative director's chair, that black one with your name on the back, and pop in only blue items, and you are choosing how you want to creatively direct your next scene. And the more that we do that, and the more that we assume our role, of course we are, the more at choice we might feel. And the more creative we might get, like, okay, this next scene is gonna look like this. It's gonna feel, I want to make it like this. Oh yeah. And then, and it also becomes playful and it becomes fun. And it's a reminder that we get to do that.
I really want a shirt. How would you creatively direct your next scene? I feel I would rock that, and just, it's a great reminder, because you're right. That's why we love cinema. We love
Yes.
cinema because it's somebody's creativity being lived through I feel like there's movies I literally feel like, oh my God, I'm living through it, And I love this idea of that question is, how would you creatively direct the next scene? I mean, there's not a person in the world that wouldn't know how to answer that, because
Right?
everybody, like, I feel silly whenever I hear a song. I'm like, ooh, that would be my background noise if I came coming out of the house on a Tuesday.
Exactly. But it can be. And imagine the main character energy you're going to bring to that set of you, like, earphones in. Ooh, I'm so ready. And it's such a reminder that life is not only happening to us. Like we're happening to life. And it can be easy to forget that. Sometimes we can feel like everything is just happening and we're just an extra on set. But, oh, no. We get to be the protagonist, the main character, the screenwriter, the script writer, the director, the producer, the costume designer. We get to do it all.
I mean, I'm just thinking about, I just recently, which people are probably like going to judge me on this. I just recently watched Wicked on I've seen it on stage live. When it came out, when it was Idina Menzel, and I in love, because what I loved about it is I'm a huge fan of Wizard of Oz, right?
Me too.
But the creative take of what Wicked represented, and it really like pivoted our perception of good and evil, right? The good witch and the bad witch. And then we find out, like, yeah, everybody has a story. Like she wasn't born a bad witch. And now it's, just the most popular thing in the world. I mean, and I think that's it, because I bet somebody was sitting there going, how would I direct my next scene if it was really about struggling with good and evil? Good and bad.
Yeah.
Is it really good and is it really bad?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's what you're telling me your entire life trajectory into this book is helping us redefining and reclaiming, like, what we think is the punishment we've been giving ourselves, and what is our birthright to move into and become. And it's never too late for any of that. The only way it's too late is when you're dead, really.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. And the more that you creatively direct the next scene and the next thing, then there'll be ideas for maybe a whole new movie, like, maybe I want to create this, and this can be the title, and this can be the whole set. And that's the beauty. We're fluid, changeable, creative beings. So once that movie's done, maybe there's going to be another one. Right? But it starts with a scene.
Yeah, I love it. Well, when you do come up with the shirt, I am here to purchase it because I would love to rock that. Your book, all of the links to all the goodies of who you are is going to be in our notes here. And I just want to take the moment to really be in gratitude to be in your space, to have been infused by your energy and all that you are, because if whoever's listening is like, that was good, rewind, listen to it again, because this conversation has a really underlying current of inspired action. And that's how I'm feeling. So thank you for that. Thank you for bringing it. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. And thank you for redefining this feel the fear and then discerning and then giving us all the beauty of who you are in content form, in video form, in coaching form, in real life Pia form. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
That is received with such a full heart. So thank you for sharing. And thank you also for being such a fantastic, compassionate, wonderful, sorry, I had to say it. It's just, not only amazing human, but amazing co-creator, because we co-created this scene and this moment together. And it was our energy coming together that enabled this to become what it is. And I couldn't have done it without you. You gave me the chills multiple times. Your openness, your energy, just being who you are. Keep serving it. We're hungry. We want some of that. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
That book.
Just look, I wrote notes. It's like, if not now, when? Not that I've never heard that before, right? Like I hear that all the time, but I felt like you were just saying it to me, to me. And I really, I've been circling that for, like I said, 2 or 3 years. A really dear friend of mine, she has a small boutique publishing house and she's so sweet. Every now and then she'll be like, just checking in. How you doing? How's that book coming along? And, I think this is what I needed, is this little jolt of, it's not about yes, it's about the story, but it's about this responsibility of who we are and how we need to serve it up.
Yeah. Sorry, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, that's also the universe knocking on your door through your friend. I mean, that's beautiful. I do think that we're also co-creating with life. And that is life also going, hello, because that's a beautiful opportunity that's presented to you. And there's a reason it's here. There is a reason it keeps coming back to you. Such a beautiful signal. That's such a beautiful, whether intuition, life, whatever the belief, that's life knocking at your door. So the question,
grateful.
Will you answer?
I'm putting on my discernment. I'm putting on my discernment outfit. You know what? That scene with the Russian and the wife beater shirt and the vodka, I see it so clearly. And I feel like I'm there. I'm there. And it's a moment of this, like, how would you create this and direct this next scene? How would you creatively direct that? Because that's it, the book, right? Like, that's the next scene.
Absolutely. And you get to decide. And you don't have to do it alone. That's the beautiful, beautiful part of creativity as well. It's collaboration. You don't have to lock yourself in a room for 6 hours. You could take whatever time it takes, because you get to enjoy the process of creating and discovery and curiosity and all the feels and insights and everything that comes along with it. You get to do that, and you get to do it with people. And I am so here to support your creativity and what your book and your creation. So if there's anything I can do to support you, you let me know, whether it's just to talk about process, anything, you name it. I'm so here for it. And I mean that sincerely. So you don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that offer. I'm going to take you up on it. It's because I'm really feeling this energetic connection of like, okay, she's the Sherpa for my book writing process. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I just want to say, if this conversation sparked any type of emotional push, the knock on the door, the whisper, this is your turn. Share it with people you love. Share it with people you don't like. Share it with anybody, really, because we have to keep this conversation flowing through the river of life. This conversation is just it's everything. It's everything. So thank you for that. Don't forget to leave us your lovely reviews. And like my mother said, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate Pia so much for being here. Thank you. And until next time, everyone, go on the lazy river and float it out.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being with me on today's journey. If you felt something resonate, if you saw yourself in this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs this space and leave a review. It helps others find us, and it's a small way you can be a part of this powerful movement. Ladies, this isn't just a podcast. It's a community, a revolution, a place where midlife women come together to embrace our hard-earned wisdom and vibrant truth. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, it's time. It's time to step into our truth. No more holding back. Midlife is ours to own, and it's only getting started. So, until next time, take a breath, honor your journey, and live with audacity, courage, and joy. This is our time, our truth, unraveled, revealed, and celebrated.